Hey guys, this is Vol, and in this particular video I'm going to be talking about some issues relating to the recent decision by Games Workshop to not allow customers from Australasia to purchase from online retailers such as Maelstrom Games, for example. A lot of the things that I'll be talking about here have already been talked about on many different forums and on some blogs. So if you just check the video description, I'm just going to link you to the Fields of Blood blog, which is run by a few guys, in particular Pete Dunn, who is a New Zealand wargamer who I get along with and have been to some tournaments with before. So just have a read through of some of his comments, because I think they adequately sum up the situation. And I don't really want to sort of repeat, too much from online materials which is going on. But in a nutshell, basically, it makes Games Workshop products much more expensive for people that live in certain parts of the world, particularly the Southern Hemisphere. At this point in time, it's currently possible for me to place orders from the Maelstrom website for maybe 40% or so discount compared to just going into my local Games Workshop in Auckland and buying over the counter. So obviously that allowed me to stay in the hobby, continue buying models. But what's happened is that will no longer be possible, so I'll be forced directly to go to retailers and spend a lot more money. In addition to that, there's going to be a big price rise next month. Now, every time something like this happens, usually there's a big wave of anti-Games Workshop sentiment on the internet. Everybody rage quitting, this is going to be the last army, F you Games Workshop, going to go somewhere else. This is the worst that I've ever seen that. And just to, at this point, say a few things about my own feelings about that. First of all, it's not really going to kill off, Games Workshop gaming. I mean, people will still play Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000, still go to tournaments, still buy armies, buy models, even from the general stores. But there is, a problem there that, people will either slow down their purchases of armies or actually stop buying from Games Workshop altogether, which could really hurt the scene quite a lot in my country and maybe Australia as well. So in the worst case scenario, what it might end up happening is a lot of people that I regularly play with may start playing other games, and I'll be stuck with all these Warhammer and 40k armies and not have as many opponents to play against, not have as good competition going on in tournaments, and that might be what happens. If it does happen over the next couple of years, well, I guess the worst case scenario, for me to respond to that is just to sell off armies and play other games. Ready for that, if it came down to that, that's what I would do. Best case scenario is that people find a lot of ways around this, find other ways to sort of get the models imported from England, pay discount prices for them, and continue to enjoy the hobby. And what I'll be talking about in a moment is some other ways of actually using other miniatures to continue playing Games Workshop games such as Warhammer, using proxies and counts as and sort of other appropriate miniatures from other ranges. But just in general, it's not something which I have been really, really overly surprised by. I mean, Games Workshop is run by, obviously, a board of shareholders. If these guys can sell a few kgs worth of plastic sprues for hundreds of dollars, and obviously they're going to do that. I mean, Games Workshop have, over the years developed Warhammer, which is a really cool game. But the thing is, Warhammer is a good 20 or even 30 at this point years old. And initially, obviously, it was created by people who are very passionate about gaming and the fantasy sort of culture and pop culture sort of stuff. And it probably still is, but at this point it's really become commercialized to the point where there's a big sort of conflict of interests, if you look at it from a certain perspective. Don't really want to get too much into that. That's quite convoluted. But just in general, I mean, I really like Warhammer because it captures the sort of imagination, the sort of fantasy vibe. Really like sitting down with another guy and rolling dice, which is a lot of fun, and pushing the models around and collecting them and talking about that sort of hobby, which I don't think that will ever get old. But when you're sort of being bullied by a corporation, really, that really is sort of a bit of a joy killer. Anyway, if you guys would like to know more about the situation, a bit more of an objective sort of look at it, and, find out what a lot of other people, and not just myself, think about this, check out the Fields of Blood blog, have a look at any of the forums such as Warseer, WargamerAU, City Guard, and there'll be a thread there which a lot of people will be contributing to, just talking about what's happened. Anyway, I just want to talk about something which is a little bit more positive now, which is probably my favorite miniature games company, which is Reaper Miniatures. They're an American company. I've bought a few things from them so far, but I'm planning to get a lot more from them in the future. If you guys remember my High Elf army, I had a particular model I used as a sorceress. It was like this woman holding a sword and a staff. She was from Reaper Miniatures. Also, if you've been watching my 40k battle reports, if you guys remember the Doom Throne Defiler with the throne on the top of it, that's a miniature from Reaper Miniatures as well. So they make really cool stuff. But what I would really love to do is buy a whole bulk load of those guys, stuff, especially because they've categorized a lot of their range into, factions which closely resemble armies from Warhammer, such as, a humans one, Egyptian themes, undead, which looks like Tomb Kings. There's plenty of vampire stuff. There's stuff which looks like Warriors of Chaos, Skaven, Lizardmen, and Orcs and Goblins and so on. And all the miniatures are metal. You buy them one miniature at a time, and I think these types of miniatures are really just for display and for using in games like Dungeons and Dragons. But if you look at a lot of these miniatures, they're very evocative of a fantasy style, and that's something I really love. I just can't get enough of it. And what I'm interested in doing is getting a lot of these miniatures together and theming them together, and in some cases you'll be able to have a counts as army that counts as not just one type of army, but maybe two or three. For example, if I have a lot of very generic but very interesting and cool looking warriors on 25mm bases, I could proxy them as demons. And I don't really like that word proxy either, because if you've got these guys which look as though they can punch hard and deliver a combat result that a unit of bloodletters could, well, why couldn't they just be bloodletters in a game, and your opponent could easily appreciate that? Same with Warriors of Chaos. You'd use them as marauders or warriors, even lizardmen. The thing is, if you go out and buy a box of Warriors of Chaos from Games Workshop and then take it to a tournament and have them on the field, you can't then say to your opponent, well, these guys actually represent Saurus Warriors, because your opponent will go, well, why didn't you buy the Saurus Warriors then? I mean, every time I look at them, I think of Chaos. I don't think of Lizardmen. However, if you've got some models from a completely different range and you've themed them, painted them nicely, it's much easier to do that counts as, because your mind is an open slate. It's really blank to that, and you can fill it with basically a new sort of imagination. I think that, you guys listening to the way I'm describing this, maybe it'll be hard for me to get my point across, but you guys will definitely see once I start, doing this sort of thing in future, buying a lot of miniatures, painting them and converting them and sort of fielding them in an appropriate way to do a particular army. And I reckon I could pull off a collection of miniatures which I can actually sub out for several different armies which share the same sort of base size. For example, 25mm, that'd be Warriors of Chaos Lizardmen and Chaos Demons, or 25mm, maybe that would be, I don't know, Dwarves or Empire or something like that, or even Elves. So really looking forward to that project down the track. Just today I sent Maelstrom Games an email asking them to cancel the huge order that I made a couple of weeks back, but they didn't respond, and instead they shipped my order out. So that order was for a whole bunch of Imperial Guard tanks. I'm going to be doing a Trader Guard army for Imperial Guard over the next few months after finishing my World Eaters. I was just going to completely scrap that idea, but I guess, because the order's been sent, there's not much I can do about it, unless they ship it back to them and give me a direct refund. Last time they only gave me store credit instead of a refund, so I'm just not very hopeful that I'll be able to pull that off. So I guess I'll go through it with it after all, collect one more Games Workshop, army, and then after that, who knows, maybe, I'll turn full circle, start, paying up the big money to buy Games Workshop stuff. I mean, they do produce good models. It's just that it's, a bit of a negative vibe at the moment, and people aren't very enthusiastic about buying more Games Workshop stuff. However, I'm still sticking to the dream of going with Reaper Miniatures. I would strongly recommend you guys check out their range of models, and by all means, copy my ideas. Use that idea that I've been talking about if you want to go and spend a lot of money on Reaper. Obviously, their stuff is very expensive as well, but at the moment, a lot of people are feeling so spiteful that they would actually, easily spend as much money that they would spend on a Games Workshop anyway, but for a different company. it's much like, the fact that if you own a car, petrol keeps going up, and you feel very resentful against the oil companies for that, or maybe not such a good example, but a company like McDonald's continuing to sort of I don't know, continue to put out. Actually, I'm not even going to go there. I mean, if you guys want to go there, you can. I mean, there's lots of anti sort of how should I say, multinational corporations sort of stuff these days. I don't really want to start talking about my political views on YouTube, but at any rate, what I do want to talk about is, the Fields of Blood blog spot, which I've been reading a lot lately. Pete's a great guy. He's put on some good tournaments, and he's a pretty smart guy, and he's got a lot of experience with Warhammer, so go check him out. So a bit of a plug there, and also go check out Rip Miniatures, soon becoming my pretty much favourite miniature gaming company. And as for Games Workshop systems, Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000, I'll still be sticking to them and playing them until there is a really, really good reason not to, and at this point there isn't. So hope you guys got something out of this video. Check out the description and go from there. See you later.